We now bring you a special update with Dr. Carpenter of the Medical Conspiracy.
Well, as you know, this is a never-ending story. I am
Seems that way.
Yeah, I'm pretty much a wanderer, almost totally homeless. You know, I have to go to different places, and just trying to survive. I really cannot work, and I certainly don't have a retirement, so, you know, my life is a mess. And if that were not enough, I'm totally torn apart because I know I can help people and I can make a great difference, and people that were former patients that can get hold of me somehow, they are all telling me they're doing great. As long as they stayed away from standard treatment, as long as they didn't succumb to fear and bad information. I panic when they get bad information because then they're told to go for the wrong test, and then they are told the wrong results, which is a common thing apparently in the medical. I don't know if you're up to what is going on, but and I don't know if you heard, but the guy that discovered the antigen that are used in the PSA test is the one that said, no, the PSA test cannot be used to test for cancer. It's only in a particular case that has any significance. And the particular case is just reoccurrences. But they use it to the wrong way. They use it to test for cancer, and that's not its purpose, and it's giving false positive, and people are being mutilated and poisoned for nothing because they do not have a malignant growth. So it's a normal behavior of the medical to misuse what's available, lie about things, and subject people to mutilation and poisoning. That's the same case, the same situation. They're not listening. In my case, okay, I've been condemned, destroyed, my property has been stolen, my finances have been stolen, I've been put in a position that I cannot survive, and they didn't even have the proper testing to determine if what I did worked or not. They only used somebody, one idiot that complained, had no idea what I had done, and had no idea what the results were, did not listen to my advice, did not listen that the tests that are available out there are giving false positive. They did not listen to anything. All he did, he got himself full of hate, even though he knew that if he had gone for treatment before coming to me, that's exactly what would have done to him. After my treatment, they always remove the voice box. They always do devastating surgery, radiation, and probably chemo too. So, but the fact that he cannot talk and has the voice box replacement, which he sounds like a robot, and
anti-Kraftwerk, right?
Right. It's not because of me or because it came to me. It's because that's no standard procedure. In fact, I have a patient that has contacted me, let me know how he's doing, a former patient that had a case a lot worse than this guy. And he's still talking. He's a horse whisperer, by the way. And he's still doing his job. Okay? After my treatment. He's fine, and he still can talk and do his job. If he had fear take over him and gone for standard treatment, now he couldn't do anything in his life. And I kept the number of Les Medink in case former patient wanted to talk to me. And instead they used it against me. Oh, the number is still on.
The website's still up.
Right. So I had to cut the number, and I had to put an explanation on the website, that the website is only for information. I cannot do anything because FDA stole what I had.
Well, you know, if we hadn't had dual websites, there would have been something put up there. But well, you remember how it went. You didn't want to make any changes to the LaysMed website. You want to basically keep the raid story to the Medical Conspiracy website.
Right. I mean, it's just unbelievable. What do they want now? What do they think to accomplish? They want the record of the company since 2000 to today. Well, first of all, since 2000, I had him and I was evicted, so I have to do most of my possession behind, including the records. I couldn't keep all that paper. I didn't have the finances to move all those things or where to put them. So I don't have him. And so Wendy never had him anyway. And the records from 2009 to 2012 were taken by the FDA. And after 2012 July, there is nothing. And the company the charter of the corporation is being revoked by the state, so there is no LaysMed meeting. The one in Oklahoma is not being revoked, but is inactive. And they can tell. It's just a matter of public record, all of this. And they can tell that we're not operating. Where are we operating at? So why talk to Wendy? She was the accountant of a company that no longer exists. She cannot have anything. You were the webmaster, so what's the...
Yeah, well, the records of what I've done is the website itself and the radio archives.
Yeah. Nothing that they cannot have from public records. So what is this? Oh, they're trying to find out if they're breaking the law. Okay. So...
In your retail store.
Right. A guy that doesn't have any background in science, any knowledge whatsoever of anything, all he's been taught is how to lie to get what he wants. It's trained as a spy is the one that has been tormenting us. And the state is putting together a grand jury. We did not violate any of the state law because Oklahoma is one of the 8 safe harbor states in the country. And those allow alternative practitioners to operate. And the mandate, the state law indicates that alternative practitioner, holistic healer are allowed. And guess what? It's specified that healing with light is allowed.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I wasn't aware.
It's allowed the state. Healing with light is allowed. And it's covered by the safe harbor law. It's just like, it's not any different than what happened to the Puget Sound. The government went in and raided the stores that were legally selling medical marijuana, following the state law that allowed that to happen, and it was still raided by the government. And then when there was a public outcry because of what happened, the woman that ran one of the stores was crying. Then there was a riot and a real reaction by the public. So the government said, oh, we're not going to do that again. Well, you did it once. You shouldn't have done it. They were not breaking the state law. And the same here. Just because they didn't see me cry on camera, believe me, I've been crying rivers for the past 2 years. You just don't see me, but that's what's happening. My life is a shambles. I don't have a life anymore. And then I'm torn apart by the fact that I know I can help people, and they won't let me. Oh, it's a fraud. You lied to people. No, I didn't. You are. Jeremy Bain and FDA is lying about me.
And I knew the guy's name. I knew the guy's name for 2 years, and I didn't know his face when he was standing right there in front of me.
Yeah.
That blows my mind.
Yeah, because he doesn't, even when he first came for the raid, he didn't show me his paper. He didn't show me who he was. I asked him, and I asked him for a business card, and he had to give it to me, but he was very reluctant. You know,
John, I think John started to say something.
I was going to say, for those listeners who may not be aware of the situation with Dr. Carpenter and LaysMed, Inc., maybe we should take it a little bit from the beginning here, where when you originally got rated, now, it is my understanding that the FDA rated you because of the usage of food coloring.
Called it a drug.
Yeah, and
A mislabeled drug.
laser that is low power and is not under the control of FDA. Not only that, FDA can only control manufacturing of medical equipment, not somebody that uses it for the personal use. And so right there was an abuse of their position and what they could do. Okay,
and the warrant also had wording in it saying that you were manufacturing and relabeling a drug for sale, and that you were altering and relabeling medical devices for sale, which is a total lie.
Say that because they could not say that I was an alternative practitioner, because in Oklahoma they would not have gotten a warrant for raiding our place. So they said what was needed to get permission from a judge to sign and allow for the raid. So they lied to raid and steal, because that's not confiscation, that's stealing my property and ruining my life and not allowing me to make a living and not allowing me to help people, because I have. There are people that have not been mutilated, people that have not lost their eyes, they have not lost limbs, they have not been messed up and turned into eunuchs, or they have not been messed up and have their prostate removed. Because yes, I discovered that I can handle that. I handle it in a particular case, but I can handle it in a lot of other cases. I could handle it if I had my equipment and I was left alone to work. I could handle prostate cancer cases, and the people would not need drastic surgery. People would not need to be poisoned. People would not need to have their health totally destroyed. No, that is like in Russia. The government doesn't support that, and so I cannot do it because the government said I can't. And they claim violating the law. What law? The state of Oklahoma? Yeah, I never claimed to be an MD. And I did treat patients as an holistic healer because the members of the AMA refused to listen to me and work with me. They do not want to change anything. They want to continue poisoning people because it's easy for them. It's hard for the patient, but it's easy for them. And so they couldn't get to me because I got fed up, the hell with everything, and I went to stay with different people that I knew and moved around. But I maintained the radio show. And the radio show kept being messed up. The owner of the radio station were harassed. The radio show was hacked all the time. I got fed up because it took a lot of work for me to put up and gather the information.
And then just bingo, one day, whoop, we're shutting down. And that was that, you know.
We stopped, and that's not enough.
No, I mean the radio network shut down. Just boom, without a moment's notice.
And then we were doing the show anyway. We were recording it and sending it to Spreaker and what is it? Talk
Superstation was running pre-records for a while there.
And then they sabotaged that too. So people.
Well, I don't think that was sabotage. I think that was something wrong with the TuneIn, the app.
That's
itself.
what they claim. Okay, that's what they claim, and he might believe it, the guy that runs it, but I don't think so. I think it was in the pattern of everything else they've done before. But so, and then they kept harassing. Ben kept asking Wendy with phone call, there is a problem with the immigration paper of your mother. What immigration? I've been a citizen of this country since before my daughter was born. That's a long time. Unbelievable. The guy is a liar, and I cannot believe that they're listening to him. And he stole all the things from the office trying to prove that I was doing something wrong.
2 years ago.
I mean, since when water, salt, and food coloring are a drug? A drug is something that changes the physiology of the body, not the color of the cancer only. Unbelievable.
So,
okay?
Since they've shut down your practice, they raided you over food coloring, took all your equipment, took the money out of your safe, left you broke and destitute, and this was a couple of years ago, and now, you're moving around from place to place, couch surfing, going from place to place, trying to maintain your radio show, and now they're still harassing you guys. Is the latest that this is why you're talking to us now and giving us an update, is that apparently they're still harassing you guys, and it's like, what else can they possibly think they're going to get?
Exactly. That's what threw me for a loop, because here I am. We had to find jobs when this happened 2 years ago. We had, it's out there on the radio now. About a month's worth of payroll was also in that safe when the raid happened, and
expenses, rent.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were selling stuff for to keep the electricity on. It got bad. It got really bad. And we were both out of work for, I want to say, about 5 months. Yeah. Since then, it's happened almost twice. But and we both ended up. We're not working for him anymore, so I can go ahead and say it. We were both working for one of the telecommunications cellular companies. The big one. and anyway, we were working in a call center. First I lost my job over bronchitis that I got from the job, and I still couldn't get FMLA coverage, so I got docked for the days I missed and ended up losing my job over it. And I'm working after that, I was out of work for a couple of months, but I'm working a new job now. I'm about 2 months into it. I was about 1 month into it, tired, 100-something degrees outside, it's Oklahoma. And my daughter comes to me and says, there's somebody at the door that he's asking for you. And I went out there, and there's this plainclothes cop. I don't remember if he had a gun. He probably did, concealed somewhere, But he didn't have a badge or show me any ID or anything. He just had a flak jacket with the word police across it. So, to me, this is a plainclothes cop, and he's got papers in his hand. And he just starts explaining to me, asks if my wife was at home. I said, no, she's not. She's still at work. And so he hands me two of them. He says, well, you need to appear as a witness before a grand jury. And he said on August the 11th. And he says, here, it's you're not under arrest. Don't worry or anything like that. We just have to get you in here and just answer a few questions about your connection to Lays Med Inc. and Dr. Carpenter. And this went on, and he's flipping pages and showing me, you be here at this time and blah, blah, blah. And at the end of the conversation, I said, okay, well, can I have at least your name, or can I see your badge or something? He just stuck his hand out and said, oh, I'm Jeremy Bain. Nice to meet you. And I didn't know what the hell to say or think. I was kind of in shock.
Yeah, the devil was right there.
But I think all I said was, almost feels like I know you, or something like that. But I'm sorry, I'm not very talkative.
They want all the records. They don't exist. They are stolen them. And then get this. You forgot to mention that the storage where we had the company property, the few property left, and cabinets.
And because I never went out there to see the aftermath of it. You guys actually saw the busted, bolted locks and everything. I never saw that.
Yeah. Well, at first, in May 2013, they went in, but it was easy because we had an ordinary lock. And then we changed the lock, and it appeared that nothing had been taken. And then we changed the lock, okay, with one of those that you cannot destroy. And what did they do? They destroyed the fixture. The May of this year. They destroyed the fixture, went in, and nobody could tell anything. things were ransacked, but you couldn't tell that anything had been taken. Then we put the lock on the other side, and 2 weeks later, they were destroyed again. And the place was not locked. We went in and...
just a coincidence.
Yeah, right. And because we were looking for some paper, they weren't there. So, but the police... It's a police record, but the police classified that as vandalism.
Well, now it was called Lays Med Inc., and so was it incorporated?
Yes, it was
so
a Nevada corporation.
This is the whole point.
Because we didn't pay the state due, we lost the charter.
Oh, so this is why they're trying to go after you guys personally, because under incorporation, they're not supposed to be able to go after the private individual.
Well,
for anything.
They are requesting the records of the corporation, so they're still going after as we were. And you know what? I remember something. You cannot, company has gone out of business. You cannot do anything to them after 2 years. You cannot even request records. You cannot do anything. So what the hell are they doing? Breaking the law.
No, and it makes me wonder if they think that there's some operation still going, and
Right, that's probably what they think, but where? Okay, because if it's not in Oklahoma, they can't do anything.
But the website's still up, right?
Yes, the website is still up, but I put just recently a statement saying that it's just for information. So people will know what's available. It's not allowed to operate. Yeah. I guess that's what they think.
I wonder if they knew the actual outcome of what they've already done, if they would continue to proceed, because it's like, what are you going to do? Try to sue or do something? I mean, you've already taken everything. There's nothing left to take. They're wasting their own time and money on lawyers and on whatever.
Since day one, because they shouldn't have raided me. Yeah. They are wasting government money. I don't know.
Yeah, think of it on a personal level. Say if you wanted to sue somebody or take somebody to court or a small claims court or anything like that. If you knew the person didn't have any money, well, you wouldn't waste your time. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. Now you're spending money on court, lawyer, whatever, and the person has. Even if you win, you're not going to get any money. So what's the point? I don't know. That's the kind of thing I've laughed at.
It's criminal because I committed a fraud. But they're going through...
And they make the fraud a premise, like they haven't proven fraud, but yet everything is premised on, committing fraud.
Innocent.
Well, that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. But, okay, the other thing is, I just remember, because he mentioned the fact that they want the record, it's the corporation, okay? They want the record of the corporation and everything. Well, guess what? The corporation has not been in operation for 2 years, so they are not even, you cannot do anything to the corporation. So that you can't even ask for the records, which they are doing. They don't exist anymore. They've been lost, so, and some of them probably stolen from storage, but anyway, we can't prove that other than the fact that the storage, and get this, after the last break-in, the owner of the storage space put the security camera pointing at our storage space. So when Wendy went back to keep an eye on what was going on, she found that had been knocked down. So it wouldn't record anything. Yeah, she can tell you that. She was there. She can give you the detail of what it looked like. Is that accidental? Think about it. The security camera had not been touched until it pointed at our storage space. And then it gets knocked out.
And all this over food coloring.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
the
criminality of having food coloring, and
it's a drug. Because I'm using it. I was using it for cancer. That makes it a drug. No, it doesn't. Food coloring is still food coloring.
And somebody asked what happens when you mix the lime and the coconut, and the FDA comes and raids you for that too, because if you're using it to treat the bellyache, then it becomes a drug.
Well, let me see if I understand this right. When you use the food coloring, you're not using it as a drug to treat cancer or to treat anything. You're using it to try to diagnose. Are you not?
It's used to change the color of the cancer, so the cancer only will absorb the laser light. The laser light is such a low power that won't do anything. And of course, food coloring doesn't do anything, but it will absorb the light. And that makes the cancer alone reach a temperature that will kill it. It's just a physical reaction. It's not a physiological reaction. Just cancer gets cooked.
So
the food coloring is acting almost like a lens.
Yeah, it's tuned to the. Well, I don't know because I just heard you talk about it so many times. The frequency of the
absorption.
The frequency of the laser is fine tuned to make maximum heat absorption with the color green. We can say that, right?
Regular
shade of green, kind of a dark green.
And that's it. All it is changing the color of the tumor, and because only the tumor will retain. It's just water, salt, and food coloring has no nourishing value, so the body flushes it out immediately. It's just the cancer that has slow metabolism and keep it there for a little bit of time, a couple of hours. And that's enough to treat the cancer, to have expose it to the light, every part of the cancer carefully, meticulously. It's a lot of work by part of the provider. And the cancer dies. That's it. And then it's dead in place. It's not going anywhere. The lump is still there, but it's dead. And if they did proper testing, they would have been able to recognize that it's dead, but they refused to. And they just went into, the lump is still there, so they still have a cancer. That's what they did. Ignorance to the hill.
I mean, I would like to see the law that says, specifically, thou shalt not use food coloring liquid as a lens. I mean, it's just absurd that they can raid you, take all your stuff over that, because it's FDA and the food coloring falls under the Food and Drug Administration's authority.
Because the food coloring is fully FDA approved for ingestion, for eating. So injecting in the tumor is even less invasive than drinking it. So it doesn't do anything to anything. And the amount is minimal anyway. It's just concentrated in one location. And by the way, food coloring, to become like a poison, maybe, you need to drink 12 gallons. This is like we contacted the poison center, and the answer was, well, you would have to drink 12 gallons of food coloring to have maybe a problem.
You'd be looking like the Jolly Green Giant.
No, that's beyond that. If you drink 12 gallons of plain water, you're still going to have problems.
Right.
12 gallons is a lot.
So for those who don't know, Dr. Carpenter has been on the cutting edge forefront of laser therapy, laser treatment.
Yeah.
And this is what kills me now, is if anyone does a Google search, I know nobody likes Google, the big bad guy, but, if you're looking for something, they're the guy to search at. And if you do a Google search on laser treatment for cancer or for other skin problems, but mainly cancer, and you'll find all kinds of different university studies now working on this exact technology, which you have been shut down for. And this is what makes it so unfair.
Well, and speaking of Google, right before the raid, in the last year, right before the raid, I would do this, kind of regularly, search certain words, on Google to see how our tags are doing, etc. And laser cancer therapy, Dr. Carpenter was on page 1.
Yeah, but now, and of course, there is the university in Little Rock that has been trying to copy me for years. And they get money for their research that goes nowhere. But I get raided and destroyed and now harassed even more and harassing my family. And by the way, the corporation after 2 years has been out of business. There is not even under any obligation to keep records, and it cannot be touched. They cannot do anything to it, but they're still doing it. And as you said, they cannot do it to the people if it's a registered corporation.
And they want my employment records up till going back to 2000. Yeah, do you know? Oh God, I don't even want to talk about the year 2000. I was in a bad marriage and working minimum wage jobs, and I don't have any records from back then.
And what's that got to do with anything? Like I said, it's a corporation. They cannot blame you.
Exactly. I didn't even know you or Wendy.
Well, I mean, that's the whole point that people incorporate. That is, if something goes south or it goes out of business or into bankruptcy or into the red, like say a corporation goes, where they owe $1 million or a few $1 million and they had to shut down, still owing that money and they don't have any way to pay it back. That's the reason people incorporate, so that they can't go after them in their private life and foreclose on their house or their car.
Yeah, but here in this one, they're trying to go for a criminal. Because it's a crime to save people's lives, again. It's a crime to save people from poisoning and mutilation. Because the AMA does not endorse that. You think they're going to endorse it? Are we kidding? And as I said, look at the example of the guy with the PSA testing. You know that he's not an MD. He's a PhD. Does that tell you something?
Mm-hmm.
MD don't know anything. They just go to school, they're told, you have this condition, you give them that drug. That's what they learn in school. Possibly identify, which they make a lot of mistakes on that one too, what the disease is, and then this is the drug for it. And they don't know anything else, and they're blinded on, and they don't want to know anything else. And somebody comes along and tells you, whoops, there is a really good way to do it. A lot less expensive, no drugs. And of course, that upsets the drug company. Then that person has to be squashed like a bug because the drug companies have to continue to do their billion. And FDA gets money from the drug company to approve the garbage they sell. And so FDA jumps on me. That's the truth. But why the state is listening when the state of Oklahoma allow holistic healer? And anybody would know that water, salt, and food coloring are not a drug. The definition in the Webster Dictionary. But what the FDA did when they rated us, they took the first part of the definition and ignored the part that said has to cause a physiological change to be a drug. They ignored that. Oh, you're using it for cancer, therefore it's a drug. Okay. So people use oregano to regrow hair. Is that a drug? I mean, come on. That is an intentional harassment, terrorizing people, just like in Russia, because threatening me because I'm a fraud. Well, it has been 2 years since I've been able to work, so that's it. The fraud, the thing falls off. And of course, 2 years that the
and they never proved fraud. That's the whole thing. That's
well, but they didn't prove that they did that trying to prove it. You can't do that. You have to have the proof first before you go after. That's what is supposed to be in the U.S.
And in Bolshevik America.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going on in this case. And people are not standing up and screaming. It is not a drug. So and I was not manufacturing anything, and I was not selling anything, just providing services. So FDA had no jurisdiction over what I was doing, especially in the state of Oklahoma.
And they were even trying. Oh well.
Yeah,
no, I won't even go there.
They were even trying to say that I pretended to be an MD because then they could go after me. I never did. And then they said it didn't work because of one complaint of one idiot, which is an evil creature too. I mean, he called me on the phone one time and said, "Aren't you dead yet? Isn't that an evil creature?"
Unreal.
And then all the other cases that say, "Hey, she's helping people. Stop immediately what you're doing." People that say, "Hey, what the heck are you doing?"
I was going to say, I printed up some comments from the change.org petition. You got about 7 pages of really amazing comments here.
And they were all ignored over one person complaining?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I got brought into the thing because really when the whole slander campaign started, you know, I guess somebody got wind that that I would argue on the blog sites and the little forum pages, and so they started including me with all of their little attacks. And I don't know, even though Bob and his lasermedinc.net, you know, which is no longer up, by the way. I don't know when it actually shut down, but he used to have this, you know, web page making fun of you and then saying you were a fraud in the most illiterate way imaginable. It's kind of funny to read, but I also had this picture of the three of us, and they were all three, you know, cut out in different contexts. But, you know, I was always thrown into the mix just because I helped out with the radio show and helped with the websites.
Well, I did notice the internet trolls that followed you guys around like the plague. And that's all I could describe them as, was typical internet trolls. They didn't provide any logical argument or any argument at all. It was just attack.
And most personal attacks, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tag teaming too. They get 2 or 3 together, you know.
Yeah, so these people were not genuine in their, whatever their discontent with you was. Otherwise, they would provide, you know, some type of argument, which they never really seemed to do. They were just internet trolls.
Yeah. And that other one that was saying, "Oh, my friend died. And she had another type of cancer that I didn't treat and nobody else ever mentioned."
Well, and what John says... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say what John just said about they're not genuine. You made me think, you know, not only were the internet trolls not genuine, but about the time of the depositions in Arkansas, when Dr. Carpenter had to go into the depositions, there were just unbelievable coincidences happening on those message boards. They weren't genuine. They were working for the attorney. They were working for...
You think that only the attorney knew. How did they get hold of it? They were not there.
They were working for the lawyer that was trying to sue her, that did sue her, and made a big spectacle out of it.
And then they had that illegal trial. A civil trial, if I'm not there, they cannot go on. Has to go into default. But they didn't want to do that.
So they picked a jury. Picked one side.
And they had a trial that was illegal. And then they made a ridiculous amount of money request that they knew I didn't have, and they let it go. Only when I started going on the web and showing evidence that they were all lies, that's when they tried to collect.
Yep.
It's just unbelievable. But going on now, 2 years later, the law has passed. The corporation no longer exists. Has passed the time for the corporation to even maintain records. It's It's ridiculous.
And you went and testified, what, about a year and a half ago, right?
Yeah.
And not a word after that.
But they were trying to say that, it's a drug. You can't say that it's not a drug. And it's not sterilized properly because you have to have an autoclave. If you do not have an autoclave, you cannot sterilize. And that's ridiculous. An autoclave is needed for equipment because you cannot put metal in a microwave, you moron. But liquid you can. And you sterilize it the same way, the old way. That was done for years and years. Now with the autoclave, people still get infected. Why? Because they sterilize it once a day, but they use it on thousands of people, use it, reuse it over, and that's how you contaminate everybody. A small corporation doesn't do that. Anyway.
Let me run and see what Wendy's.
Yeah, if she's coming on and saying something.
Okay, hang on a second. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Okay, so it's just unreal. I'm glad you pointed out that the employee cannot be held responsible for the corporation doing.
No, and neither. Same with the owner of like if it's incorporated, the owner pays themselves as an employee, so that technically even the owner's an employee.
Yeah. I know. But.
Well, I mean, imagine if they tried the same thing over at one of the universities that are working on the same technology.
That they kill people. Well, I just don't know exactly what it looked like when the last time they went on the storage space. I wanted her to.
Let's see here.
To explain, I wasn't there. Hey!
Wait, she hadn't answered yet.
I see her. No, you're just trying to call.
Hello.
Hey!
Hey.
Okay, I was talking about the storage coincidence.
Oh.
And I didn't know exactly what happened to the security camera that was pointing in at our storage space. What condition was in the last time you saw it?
John, you've met Wendy before, haven't you?
Yes, definitely. How's it going, Wendy?
Okay.
Fine. The camera was perched on a pole, that he had put on top of the roof, and the wire went from one building to the next. But when we got there last weekend, it had been taken off and laid down onto the roof itself, basically being useless because it was being blocked by the edge of the building there. So obviously somebody's going to great lengths to make sure they're not caught, and they want to come and go as they please, apparently.
Wow.
Yeah, and that never happened until the camera pointed to our space.
Right, after 3 break-ins.
Yeah. So.
Just coincidence,
Yeah. 3 break-ins are definitely a coincidence, right? To the same. And one 2 weeks after the other. What could have possibly changed in 2 weeks?
Right.
By the way, we have been talking about the employees cannot be held responsible for what the corporation does. So that should be a good argument for you. But when he said that, reminded me that after the corporation goes after a corporation goes out of business, you cannot do anything to them 2 years later.
That's good to know.
Yeah, because then you have under no obligation to even have records.
Well, okay, the clinic was shut down, but was the company still
because we
shut
couldn't
down
pay.
that long too?
No, because we couldn't pay, and the dude was coming.
We couldn't pay anything. Yeah.
Right, because you have to pay 2 things in Nevada. You have to pay the state, and you have to pay and keep up the resident agent. Okay, and we couldn't pay any of it, and that came at the end of August happened. So, corporation hasn't been operating since then. And it's not been legal since then. So that means we are not even under any obligation to have any records.
Right.
Which we don't because they were taken. So the one before 2009 were lost when I was evicted. So there's nothing. And it's a matter of public record.
Don't you mean 2012?
No, because they took the records, FDA took the records from 2009 to 2012.
Oh, okay.
They took all of those, so we don't have it.
Right.
And then, but they are asking you for the records from 2000. Well, those records don't exist anymore. Who knows? They're probably trashed.
I wasn't working for you back then, so.
I was the one that I've always kept the one of...
Right, Nevada.
Nevada. So, and they were gone when I had to run out of that place quick. I mean, gosh, they gave me 10 days for eviction.
Right.
10 days. Was hard to take anything out of it. And with no money. But, see, now the corporation has now been...
and then got your car involved in a carjacking / armed robbery and made it impossible for you to get your car back.
And then the other one was caused accident.
Yeah.
All just big coincidences, you know.
Yeah. Well, because many times I remember seeing at that corner the distance where the cars were when I turned, and the guy had to have sped up to hit me intentionally.
Flipped you over.
Yeah, and he didn't have hardly anything.
Dr. Carpenter,
skid mark. Oh, he tried to stop. No skid mark. Yeah.
I was thinking you probably would have gotten less trouble if you were using food coloring to come out with a new color of crystal meth for the young kids to go and screw their lives up on. And say you got caught doing that, you'd probably you'd be in far less trouble than what you did.
I talked to lawyers and said, well, if you were doing that, I could help you. But I cannot help you for what you did. I didn't do anything. I know. And then let me tell you something. Another interesting thing. When I was still in Arkansas, and we had that ad that created the rat of the medical school.
She got approached by the Susan G. Komen. They were putting a special edition in the state newspaper, the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, and so they made a full page spread for Lay's Med Inc. And it got reaction.
Yeah, but the ad was pretty big, and that created the rat of town for the medical school in Little Rock because they were trying to copy me and getting nowhere. But what happened is I got this clinic that sent me a patient that was on chemo, and they were not getting anywhere. They're not resolving the case. The woman was a mess. They sent her to me, and I look at her case. I said, yes, I can help you, and I can do, we can do the treatment. You're going to need, I don't remember how many treatments she needed, but anyway, it can be done, not a problem. Okay? Everything was fine until I said to the woman, but you can't have any more chemo.
Yep.
That's when all the clinic had a fit. The clinic that I sent it to me because I would work with them. You can't have the chemo because chemo is poison. Once I kill the cancer, you're poisoning the body for nothing.
But it's the foundation of the infrastructure, though.
Right. So what I'm saying is, had I been dishonest and say, sure, you can use chemo, but let me give you my treatment, which would still have killed the person because the cancer was dead, but the chemo poisons everything. And the person can still die. So I wanted the patient to get well, not still die and make money. So if I were a fraud, I would have said, sure. And get these clinics to send me the patient because that way the cancer will be dead and they will last longer on chemo. See? That's why they do integrative medicine. They send them to alternative practitioners, not because it's a solution, but because they last longer on chemo, so they make more money. And
Gotta have that chemo.
honest, I would have agreed to that, but I can't. Because my point was always to stop the poisoning of chemo and kill the cancer. And for that, I'm a fraud.
And Angelina Jolie, she's completely credible when she tells people to preemptively cut off their breasts when they don't even have cancer in the first place. You know, she's allowed to run around and spew all this, and yet they're rating you and shutting you down for food coloring.
Right. And I personally don't even believe that she actually had that surgery. She's an actress. She's faking it. And she's telling people do this because she's being paid for it.
I agree with with you.
This is kind of off the topic, but it just occurred to me last week. I only saw it one place, an article about some university research trying to establish a link between opiate drugs and cancer.
Really?
Yeah, wouldn't that be something?
I've been saying that for years.
Mm-hmm.
People get cancer because of the drugs they take. That's why the cancer is running rampant now. Plus the fake testing they do, like the mammogram. Oh, you have cancer, and they don't.
Actually, that was a huge thing here. Well, it's a big thing everywhere, but it was big in the news here. Even mainstream media had to report the thousands of cases of Canadian women who had false positives and had their breasts removed for no reason.
Good.
And do you know what happened in the U.S.? They outlawed. They said that outlawed that article, and they said that was a fake. That's what they said in the U.S. That Canadian article was a fake. Can you believe that?
Yeah, no, and I remember when that article came out, it wasn't just one outlet; it was on several outlets. And I looked into it, and I found previous cases where they found that this was happening, not just in Canada, but in other countries.
Yeah.
So I know that sometimes you can get a fake story that gets put out there, and a bunch of mainstream accidentally grabs it if they didn't do it on purpose and spews it around. But in this case, you know, I found that this is quite a common occurrence.
Do you know that if somebody, especially when they find younger women that are breastfeeding, somebody has clogged the milk duct, that will give you a positive on the mammogram? And if you have a mammogram when a woman has a mammogram when she has her period, that gives you a false positive. And women are not told not to go when they have their period, not to go for testing when they have their period. Can you believe that? And then they get treated and mutilated for nothing.
Now, the mammogram is the one where they flatten the breast right out in that machine, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, if it's not effective at finding the tumor, then why the heck would anyone want to squish their boob like that?
And get it radiated.
Not only that, that's a trauma, and trauma can cause cancer. So, you do it often enough, and you end up getting cancer because of the mammogram that are supposed to help you. I mean, that's such a fake, the whole thing. It's just like I said, the same thing about the prostate cancer case. The guy that found the antigen said, no, you can't use it because it's subject to too much mistake. Are they listening? No. And because I'm not an MD, not paid by the drug companies, and I'm telling you the truth, and I know how to recognize the cancer a lot better than any physician can. Oh, no, I'm a fraud. I'm not allowed to function. I have to be in extreme financial distress, and I have to be torn apart by the fact when I see somebody going through chemo, by the fact that I can help and they won't let me. I mean, they were showing on the web today what things to say and not to say to a cancer patient. It was showing this was a relatively young woman, and she was covered in blanket and the head covered because they feel cold and they're a mess because of the poison they're putting into them. And FDA, has the nerve of accusing me of fraud. FDA has recently approved a drug that thins the blood. Pradaxa, that thins the blood. And guess what? They approved it even though they already had 2,000 lawsuits for causing wrongful death, patient that had bled to death. 2,000 lawsuits and FDA approves the drug. But salt water and food coloring are dangerous.
I was about to say,
had one complaint.
Those 2,000 lawsuits didn't get a whole lot of media coverage compared to you and your one.
Yeah.
And one complaint of the guy that didn't understand anything. And panic, and the doctors, I don't know if they were that stupid or just lied to him. But as I said, there is another case parallel to his, only a lot more advanced condition, and the guy is now fine. And as I said, he talks. He has his voice box. He doesn't have any more problems, and he talks to horses. Yeah, which he couldn't do anymore if he went through standard treatment.
I mean, the only way I could see you at fault for using the food coloring is if the patient didn't want to use the treatment anymore, and you had tied them down and strapped them down, and then forced treatment on them after they said, I don't want to do this. But obviously your patients go there wanting the treatment, right?
When they decide they didn't want to finish, we would refund the balance of the treatments they didn't receive. Who else does that?
Well, I was about to say that even one of the most vicious of the web trolls literally begged you to treat his dad, did he not?
Yeah. And I couldn't do it anymore because I had lost a doctor. I was in Arkansas. I lost a physician, so I couldn't operate. And they begged me. I said, no, I cannot do it. And not only that, there were patients that down the line, they went through the healing stage in the immune system stepping up, attacking the dead tissue, and they thought that was more cancer forming, and I told them it was, and they were insisting they wanted more treatment, and I told them, you don't need it. This is not cancer coming back to life. This is just a part of the healing process. And but I want more treatment for security. I said, it's not going to work because the tissue is dead. It will not retain the stain. It's just no point. Okay, that is fraud. I mean, and all the people that complain, I'm doing great, I'm doing fine, and it's thanks to her that I didn't have to be messed up for life, and they were ignored. They didn't matter. That one case they had, that's what mattered. It's just unbelievable, and I don't see what they want from you, or Randy, or from Wendy. Employees of the corporation, as you said, they're not employees on top of that, not the owner. They're not responsible for anything, and they're certainly not the one that holds the records.
And really, I don't know.
You never got involved.
Make me out to be some integral part of the corporation when really I was just support helper guy,
And you were an independent. You just were not an employee.
Right. I actually worked for you only a few months.
Yeah,
and then changed over
corporation, and you just were contract work. That's all it was. So how does contract work ends up having records? And the records to present, well, you've been working. It's obvious that you have a W-2 for what you have been doing. I mean, those are public records. It's ridiculous. Okay. It is. But that, I think, is just trying to scare all of you. And regime of terror, Russia. Nothing different than Russia. And it's happening in America today.
Yeah. And I don't, I've been thinking this all along, too. I don't know if we should even talk about it. No, we've talked about it before on the radio show, this little Stasi neighborhood network that Michelle Wolven kind of created. And
to spy.
Created a little spy buddy right next door to us. And right when all that argument on the internet was going on, at one point, Michelle just blew everybody's mind and threw something up on the forum discussion board about some loud yelling that she had heard in our garage about 15 minutes prior, just to let us know, hey, I've got your next door neighbor listening. Just creepy stuff.
Yeah, in a family that has teenagers.
Yeah, but
the yelling.
The point I was trying to get to, though, is they stalked us. They vandalized my car. They vandalized other things. We think they cut a hole in our fish pond. Can't prove that, But one of them came to the door. Two of them came to the door at different times, trying to start a fight. Yeah. Well, the guy that was trying to start a fight years ago just lives 2 doors down. And one day, a couple of months ago, while Dr. C was at our place for a while,
I was visiting. Those are my grandchildren.
But neighbor was out there, and he was being really conspicuous because he had his cell phone with him, and he was out there talking and looking over. And I got a gut feeling. I think there's the reason that somebody decided to,
revamp the thing.
To start the whole thing up again.
Yeah. It's just unbelievable. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know what to say. I don't know, but this is not the behavior acceptable in a free country. It's not, especially with all the propaganda the U.S. has always done about being the best and protecting people even in other countries for their freedom, Okay? And then you use spies to harass a citizen of this country? And as I had said during the raid, what the hell do you want to Jeremy Bain? I don't even have a speeding ticket in my record. And he said, we know that. Okay, if you know all of that, then what are you doing here? Yeah,
we're with the government, and we're here to help.
No, we're the government. And like they say in the Puget Sound when they were raiding, they said, we're the government and we do what we want. That's what they said to the places that were selling medical marijuana. We are the government, we do what we want. No, you don't. There is a constitution, and there are state laws. So they are in one state, they're following the law of the state, that's it. Yeah. And it's just unbelievable. And how do you put a stop to it? You put a stop by people complaining that this thing shouldn't happen in the U.S. But I cannot get anybody to start screaming. You know why? I mean, that makes a big difference in people's lives. Yeah. Okay, there are a lot of people that don't understand science, but the one that they do, and I've had patients that had degrees and understood life, science, and everybody understands the law of the state. So why no one is doing anything, I don't know.
Well, see, that's the thing, Dr. Carpenter. If your lasers were actually powered by special batteries that ran off of special pot fuel, then everyone would care. They would be like, oh, how dare you give her pot guns back, her pot laser guns. But because it's just a regular laser gun that treats cancer. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you see, this big outrage over Rick Simpson and the hemp oil thing. But other people, don't seem to get as much of the traction.
Yeah.
But again, it's the same thing if they were to go after one of the universities that are now working and testing with your work on record. If they were to raid those universities, you'd see all these people in an uproar saying, hey, how dare the FDA or the government raid this university? And they'd be rightly angry. But how come? Where's the outcry for when the little guy goes down?
Right.
Because the university are supported by big money from one source or another. Okay, that's why they're not using food coloring, and that's why they're failing. Okay?
Right, and even if they're successful at producing something good, the medical mafia can always suppress that and not ever let that technology out anyway. So they can keep it in the realm of, okay, we can study it, but then they can kill the idea and keep giving people chemo treatments.
Well, that's apparently what happened at Stanford. because they were working on it, and then all of a sudden, nothing. And one of the patients that came to me years ago told me that he called Stanford because he wanted his wife to get that treatment that they were using experimentally. And they told them at Stanford that they were not working on that anymore, and they were aware of me, and they told him to come to me. That's what Stanford said. Okay? He was sent to me by Stanford. And they said that they were the guy that was the head of the research left, and the research, and I think he was paid probably by some drug company to go, and they thought he went back to his country and he was doing it in his country. But that's what they thought. So they stop it. If the universities are owned by drug companies, if something comes up that it doesn't profit the drug companies, they put an end to it. Okay? So I have no idea. And I don't know when all of this is going to stop. But what takes that is hurting me and is tearing me apart is the fact I see somebody that is suffering from cancer treatment. I know I could have helped them. I know they wouldn't have had to be mutilated. I know they wouldn't have had to be poisoned with the radiation and suffer with chemo. I know all of that. And I'm not allowed to do anything about it. Do you know what that does to a person? No wonder Royal Ralph ended up dying an alcoholic, dying drunk.
Imagine locking up a firefighter for putting out a fire, and then telling him, "Hey, if you ever try to put out another fire, we're coming to get you."
Yeah,
it's the exact same thing. It's ridiculous.
It's just unbelievable. And we're talking about millions of people all over the world that are suffering for nothing. Either for wrong testing and wrong diagnosis, because most of the testing they do is wrong. Wrong testing, wrong diagnosis, not allowing something that works to be up. Now, they do some of it in England. It's not quite correct because they are using something else. It's a drug, but it does something, but it's not quite as effective as a non-drug. But they're using it in England. In the U.S., I don't know. And in England, it's also used by public health because it's cheaper. Although it's not as cheap as what I do because they still use drugs. And they use well, no, they changed the lasers too, but so I think they might use something like mine. What's going on? Okay, I'm doing all the talking. Anybody else wants to jump in and say something else?
I'm sorry, Sabrina.
Yeah, what about Wendy? Is she saying anything?
She was getting something out of the oven.
Oh.
And
so I guess we won't really know anything further until after, what is it, Monday?
After they, all we can know is how much they're harassed during the questioning, which is disgusting, and I'm glad they can know the law. Hey, the corporation no longer exists. It's been 2 years. That's it. Record don't exist anymore. So, plus all the harassment, the break-in that we can prove who did it, but it sure is suspicious. 3 times the same place. That doesn't.
It's a coincidence.
Yeah, and then the camera being dropped, so it cannot point to the location anymore. Yeah, so we can find out who did it. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Well, and what could they be looking for? They got everything. Is that it? Just those years of records that you don't have?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Either that or terrorism. Terrorize people. I don't know. Okay? Because they have been trying to scare me from day one. I did not lie to the patient, and how can it be fraud if there are so many that say I am doing fine or my spouse is doing fine and it was great and we are thankful? That's no longer fraud. So what? One complained. He didn't know what he was doing, and he went back for the terrible treatment that the establishment offered. That's his choice, his mistake. And by the way, it cannot be fraud because he signed 3 disclaimers. We had 3 disclaimers the patient had to sign. 1 from the doctor that was working with us and 2 of ours, 3 disclaimers. He signed them all. And when he was trying to give us trouble, the lawyer said, you signed this 3. Oh, yeah, but let's forget about that. What? It cannot be fraud when he was warned. It was one that might not be working because the doctor wanted a statement that says medicine is not precise, so it might not work, which is not the case in this one, but we still have to sign that. And the other one is he might misunderstand what is going on and perceive it as the treatment not having worked, and he needs to understand that. He signed 3 in 3 locations, so how can it be called fraud? How can it be said that we misled him?
You know, I was just going to say one of the things that, because I've been rereading all this stuff, here lately, one of the things that they bring up, they don't directly come out and say that it's fraud, but they throw it in there in the discussion as, oh, how dare she, tell people not to go to standard oncologists if they, get concerned. As if that's, a crime. Telling them to stay away from chemo and radiation is a crime.
Yeah, that's the only thing that the snake attorney in Arkansas was trying to push. You cannot say that. Really? That's my opinion. They don't have to take it, but it's my opinion and my suggestion, and they call the patient called me for advice. And the ones that called me because they were concerned and I explained to them what was going on and they listened to me, those are the ones that today are living a full normal life without missing any body part, which include eyes sometimes.
Tongue. I'm sitting here looking at one of the comments on your Change.org petition. Dr. Carpenter cured my father of tongue cancer. I have the lab results to prove it. Conventional treatment would have left him unable to eat with an amputated tongue and unable to speak. Pharmaceutical companies and their lobbyists do much more damage to human health than any amount of good they may promote.
Yeah. And when they approve a drug and said, the risks are powered by the advantages. Huh? Anything that has a risk is not a solution. Anyway, yeah. But that's what they were implicating and that's what they're implicating with the grand jury, that is fraud being committed. Well, cannot be fraud when what I say it worked for some people. Because they follow what I said. The one that didn't follow what I said, well, what can I do? They didn't follow and they suffered the consequences. They went for standard treatment and they suffered the consequences of standard treatment, which everybody knows what they are. I didn't invent them. I didn't discover it. I didn't point. I'm just remind them about it. And it's not something that I invented. Not to go for standard treatment because chances are that it will kill you or not cure you. It's something that everybody's saying, not just me. So all I'm saying is that I can kill the cancer. All the time, no fail. Now, the person might not understand what has happened, might not believe it. Well, that's up to them. But the tumor is dead. And if they listened to me and did the proper testing, it would have been proven. But they wouldn't do that because they know what's going to come out of it. And once it's proven, and then what? They lose their business the way it is.
They lose the trillions of dollars that they've raked in funding through their various charities and donations. Some of the biggest ones would be the Terry Fox run that was started here in Canada in the 70s. And
the one Coleman.
What was that? What was that one that you said?
The Coleman Foundation in the U.S. brings in a
The
lot of
pink
money.
ribbons, Susan G.
Okay,
Komen.
okay, those are the guys with the pink ribbons. Okay, so and also another one I was going to mention was the Lance Armstrong one.
Armstrong, Livestrong, and all of that, right?
Yeah.
That's another farce, okay? Because apparently...
Well, yeah, one of your patients tried to get on there and talk about you. They shot him down quick because you don't know what you're dealing with. You should go to somebody reputable.
Yeah. Never mind that you're fine. You don't have he didn't even have the lumps anymore. His disappeared really quick.
I'll tell you what he did have that nobody else on that blog had anymore.
Yeah. He was back to normal life. Like
He
nothing
still had his
ever
equipment.
happened.
Everybody else on there didn't.
Yeah. They were not men anymore. And Lance Armstrong, he's such an athlete. Yeah, he was on drugs all the time. It came out. Yeah. It's another farce. It's all propaganda. It's all to cover up and push the system. They know it doesn't work. They know it hurts people. And that is a fraud. That is the real fraud. But no. Oh, you had this person that had this arm, you treated and his arm was so swollen. Yes, because before he came to me, he had 27 lymph nodes removed. He had no drainage. And I told him you need to have lymphatic massage. And they refused to do it to him because, that spreads the cancer. Well, it's dead. It's not going to spread anything. Yeah. Yep. And get this. They didn't even get the complaint from the family of the patient. All they use is the email when they store what was on my hard drive. They stole the email and say, see, this picture, he said that he didn't expect, and there was nothing in what I told them that would indicate he would have this problem. And I said, you never told me you had 27 lymph nodes removed, because I would have told you what the problem would be. I just used anything they could get, even when they couldn't get anything, beside that guy. That one guy. So, I don't know. I'm hoping that they'll see the wrong way. We know that what they're doing, going after Wendy and Randy, it's really breaking the law. We know that. And the time has passed. 2 years later, the corporation is as out of existence. You can't do anything. So, I know that has passed.
Well, I just did a search for this now on Google, laser cancer treatment. And top one, I've got lasers and cancer treatment, National Cancer Institute. This is off of cancer.gov. So it's a government web sheet. Laser light can be used to remove cancer or precancerous growths to relieve symptoms of cancer. And it goes on further. And I mean, we've got, it just, if I scroll down the list, it's just got all these medical websites claiming that, yes, you can use lasers in
they use other lasers
cancers.
that cause problems, and they're not selective, but they do something.
But now they didn't. The FDA didn't come after you for the laser itself. They came after you for the food coloring.
No, for both.
Oh, for both.
For both, they tried to say that she was selling. Mislabeled and adulterated medical devices.
Oh, right. And I guess I'm trying to think, because I know lasers in electronic devices here in Canada have like a special radiation thing, and I think it's got some government regulation on the laser itself.
They have government regulation on laser. First of all, you have to be a manufacturer selling those lasers, first of all, for FDA to come involved. And second, has to have a certain level of rating, above a certain level, to become a problem. We are below that level, so there is no control. And we're not even selling them, just using. So the whole thing is a farce. Drug, it's not a drug. Food color is not a drug. And the device is not controlled. Doesn't even need gavel, for heaven's sake. It just, and we were not selling. You cannot get FDA involved unless you're a manufacturing facility and you're trying to sell the devices. That's why they lied on the affidavit. So the judge would say, go ahead and rate him. Okay? But there wasn't. It was just, and a lot of chiropractors are using that level, that low power laser. No, my design, because it has to be that particular design to be effective. But other design, just the rating, that's what matters, the rating of the laser. The rating, and they're using them is not a problem. Now, somebody manufactures, so they have to go through FDA. But the ones that put together themselves or have somebody they knew put together for them, they don't have to go through the regulation of FDA as long as they're not selling them. And it is low power. So the whole thing is a farce. Okay?
Right, so they came after the laser, claiming that you were basically under the guise that you were manufacturing them on a mass scale or something.
Interstate commerce. Yeah.
Selling across state lines.
Yeah. Isn't selling even within the state lines. Never. Not selling.
Page 1.
And with that, they stole my equipment.
Page 1 of the application for the warrant. First paragraph, a retail store called LaysMed Inc.
Yeah. So right there.
Retail store.
Yeah. Right there, it's the first lie. And with that, they got the permission to destroy my life and stop him from helping people. Because he's not just destroying my life. 35 years of research. I would have to be a nutcase to go after a fraud for 35 years. 35 years of research and putting my own money, ending up without retirement just to push this. Not only that, the damage to all those poor people that believe the lie of the AMA and go and get mutilated and poisoned and eventually killed. And suffer tremendously through the treatment. Just unbelievable.
This is what kills me is if you say it's a lie, but if cancer.gov, if government God, our God the government says it, then it's okay. But you, even though now the government admits it, you're still a liar, though.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and what I do doesn't work. Have you done the testing? No. They haven't done the verifying testing. Those lasers that they use basically burn and char the tissue. I don't. What I have does not char the tissue. Doesn't do anything other than what is called coagulation necrosis. And any cellular biologist can tell you what coagulation necrosis is and can tell you how long the body takes to flush all that tissue out. Okay? Because a tumor, small tumor, the size of a thumb, okay, the top part of a thumb, it contains 1 billion cells. Pretty slow to flush out naturally 1 billion cells. And that's why they are fine. What they do is fine, but what I do is not. Because I'm not an MD. Well, in Oklahoma, people that are not MD are allowed to exist. And that's why they had to lie and say it's a store that sells adulterated drugs and adulterated equipment. Because otherwise, they couldn't have done it. What I don't understand is why they're going on with the grand jury. There is nothing that breaks the law. And when they talked to me, they said, and you're breaking some FDA laws without specifying what. Because I'm not.
Well, the 3 U.S. code sections that are on the front page of this application for warrant, it says 18 U.S.C. Section 1343, wire fraud.
Yeah.
21 U.S.C. Section 331, causing a drug to be misbranded and a medical device to be adulterated. 21 U.S.C. same citation, failing to register a drug manufacturing establishment. A drug manufacturing establishment.
There It's nothing of, see how the whole thing is bogus? Fraud cannot be fraud if there are people that are happy with the treatment. I could not possibly be lying. How do I make some people do well? It's a lie, but some people are doing fine. People that were diagnosed with cancer, like the lady that wrote from Australia, she said her doctors are wondering how come she's still alive, which is a horrible thing to say to a person. How come she's still alive? Because she didn't go through surgery, chemo, radiation, and she came to us and she's still alive. So how come she's still alive? Okay, so it's not a fraud. It actually worked. It didn't work supposedly for that guy. Well, he didn't listen. So, but adulterated equipment and selling a store. That's absolutely a lie. They have no evidence of that. That was 2 years ago anyway. What about now? Nothing. The company no longer exists. So the whole thing is phony. I'm sorry that Wendy dropped out.
Did she?
Yeah, she didn't. Can't you tell she's not on?
Oh, I wasn't looking. Yeah, I guess she did. Huh.
Yeah.
Well, she's probably tied up with Sabrina.
Or with dinner. I don't know. It's pretty late. I didn't realize how late it was. The whole thing is a farce. They're trying to stomp and crush me like a cockroach. Well, they're the cockroaches to even trying something like this. And I cannot stop repeating this. I am suffering. And, the other day I heard, I don't know if you remember the song of ABBA, Fernando.
Yeah, you've told me about it. I didn't.
Yeah, and he said, and the song says, we never thought that we could lose, but there is no regret. Oh, damn it, there is a lot of regret. And I often think about the past, wasting 35 years of my life, saving maybe 100 lives, but that's it. I'm not allowed to save anymore. I've got 100 lives. But, yeah, I have plenty of regret. And if I could go back, would I do it again? The problem is, my first reaction is, hell no! But the problem is that it's still me. And I can't change. And let me tell you, I was always reluctant about this. And it kept coming back, haunting me. But when I really stopped fighting it was when I saw the result. When I saw the result and the difference that made in people, I could not quit. That's why so many years of my life has been dedicated to this, because of the difference that make in people's life. And I'm one of those weird people that like to see people smiling and happy. There's some people that are so sick they enjoy seeing other people miserable. I don't. I want people to be all happy, because if you are in a country with happy people, then everybody's happy. Mm-hmm. Not just a few isolated crooks. Okay? And I like to see people living their life, whatever they choose to do with their life. It was their choice. It's at least they do whatever they wanted to do with their life. And they cannot do it if they are sick, poisoned, and mutilated, and irradiated. They cannot do that, causes more cancer. They cannot do that. And I wanted to see the situation where they could go back to normal life, because if handled properly, cancer is not a problem. People should really stop taking all those medications because they cause the cancer. But the cancer can be stopped without any consequences. And pretty easily, in just a few days. Think about it. People go on and on for months, if not years, of chemo, being useless, being unable to work, unable to lead a life. And in my case, people in a few days were done. Cancer was dead. And in the meantime, maybe the first day were feeling kind of low and tired, but after that, they could do whatever they want to, even during treatment. which was helping the industry, the tourist industry in Tulsa or whatever city, or Little Rock when I was in Little Rock. Because people would go to theater, would go to the movies, would go shopping, would go to restaurants, because they were feeling great. And they could eat whatever they wanted to. And they were hungry. Because the cancer was dead or dying, and they were going back to normal life. No, that's not allowed. Because they endangered the industry of drugs, research.
Death.
And the other one is donation to the different foundations that people donate out of fear, believing that this foundation actually can help find a cure. Oh, please. Look at all the years. It's perpetuating the revenue. In the meantime, I can't survive. I'm struggling to survive. And I'm being insulted. I'm being called a criminal. Fraud. Fraud, if you look at the definition of fraud, you have to know that you're lying to people, are misleading, and they're giving false information, which sure fits the member of the AMA, not me. Because I know it works. Science says it works. Science, not medicine. Medicine is a practice, it's not a science. But science says it works because tissue dies with heat. I didn't say that science says. 35, and sometimes I feel useless. I cannot do anything. I feel useless, and I feel that my life is over. I can't do anything. I don't know. I wanted to stop to harass me, harass my family. What they've got to do with anything? They were just employees.
And you know, the other coincidental thing that happened, I don't know, a couple of months after we stopped doing podcasts.
Yeah, what?
I mean, we never had much of a big audience, but at least you were getting on once a week and talking, you know.
Yeah, now I can't even do that. It's no point. Nobody's listening. And they are sabotaging the show when it comes on. They cannot do it on Spreaker, but... And I put up that statement saying that the information on the website is just for historical value, and people to have that information, I'll keep it up as long as I can, and people to have that information because they should be known. Because eventually, all of this will end. And then somebody will come up and say that he discovered it. You know, as I said in that statement, it's like feeling like Galileo. Threatened with his life because he said that the sun was not revolving around the earth. Science. Same thing I'm saying. Science. And science is called fraud. Okay. All right. Anybody has anything else to say?
I don't know. The whole reason I, even contacted John is because we've been off the air for a while. Really, since Orion breakup, things have kind of gone down.
Yeah.
Audience gone down, and even on the Medical Conspiracy Facebook page, there's not a whole lot of activity. I put up a couple of things about the resurrection of the investigation, or whatever you want to call it, and it's like nobody's paying attention.
Well, the thing is, Facebook has changed so much over the years that now it doesn't matter. You could have a Facebook page with 100,000 or 1 million people that like it, and you post something and it barely gets any views or shares unless you pay Facebook money.
Right.
So, I mean, it's not just you guys, it's everyone in the alternative media or anyone on Facebook. It's not a, with this Facebook censorship, a lot of it is just they're trying to make money off of anyone that wants their post to be seen. So it's made it so that Facebook is a very far less effective tool than it used to be to get the word out.
I need my money for Candy Crush points. I'm kidding. No, I won't play that crap.
Yeah.
There's people that'll spend money, though, on Candy Crush.
Okay,
Stupid game.
It's all a farce, even the searches, because I don't know if you pay attention, but when you do a search, okay, of something flashes and come up in answer of what you asking, and then all of a sudden it disappears and all this garbage shows up. That is not necessarily connected with what you wanted. Just pay attention next time you do the Google search, and you'll see something flashes on, which is the right answer to what I want. And then, poof, that disappears and is overridden by something that, is saying something else, misdirecting you. Have you noticed that?
I don't know. Maybe your context menu is coming up and giving you leads, based on the first couple of words you type, and it may be leading you on to something else, and you accidentally hit it.
It first comes up the good one, and then the others take over. Because it's the software they use to push whoever pays them to push certain things.
Right, yeah, like there's people paying Google money to make sure they end up at the top of the searches.
Right. It's all a farce. It's all a crooked world. It's all a game. No.
Well, so I guess we won't know anything new until Monday or so.
Yeah, well, when we go in, we'll see. They can have a feeling of what's going on, but even then, you're really not going to know that much.
Yeah, I still can't believe it's happening. I can't believe they're wanting to talk to me. Why me?
I think it's just an attempt to scare us. Anyone is there to scare us. We know. We all know. You even have seen patients changing when they come in. The few times you were helping at the desk, people that were coming in and how they were when they came out. You even saw that.
Yeah.
You don't know anything of the financial, but you saw the difference.
Sure I did, and these people were coming in from all over the world.
Yeah. And then the trolls decided to do something about it. And stop all of that, stop the business. But I still could do some, not many, but educated people would understand, because the best result I had with people with a good education, and then they would understand and they would follow the guidelines and stick to it and do fine. But the other ones were affected by the nonsense on the web.
Education helps you think for yourself,
Yeah. But even with that, struggling, we're still trying to survive. It was hard, but we could hardly make it. And then, of course, they come in and boom, can't do anything. Steal everything. And then now that was not enough. It's not enough that I don't have enough to survive. No, that's not enough. Anyway, okay. Well, if we know, I don't know, I guess that would be just a feeling that you two have when you're there, you and Wendy, when you're there, then you can talk to John, but, and then we'll see. I don't know, but we need to stay on this and remind people this is just a farce, and it is sabotaging people's lives, not just mine, everybody, all over the world, because they are not allowed to access the one thing that really helps them. They can access alternative nonsense. They can use that horrible thing that is called Black Sabbath. Now they have another one that is called Purple Fupa. Oh, God, that thing is even worse than Sabbath. If it was possible, something to be worse than Black Sabbath. It's another Sabbath.
Is it still bloodroot, or is it made from something else?
I don't know what it's made of, but it is supposedly something else. But I don't know. Okay. And originally, when they put it out, was supposed to draw the toxin and the cancer through the feet. I see how somebody can even believe that. And then they started putting it on the tumor, and man, let me tell you, that creates mayhem, awful, terrible suffering. Because it chews up the tissue. I saw this woman that she had a tumor near the ear. She put the salve on. She didn't have an ear anymore. She couldn't hear from that side anymore, and all the ear, the entire tissue was gone. There was only a little hole, and my clothes left. Of course, she was going around covering with a scarf. Yeah. Unbelievable. So even the alternative are really messing up people, and then they give him all these supplements, lying to them. They know they don't work, they're lying to them. And then they, of course, turn around and say that I am bad because I say mine is the only solution. It is. But, of course, it cannot be used because FDA says so. Lying says so. Okay. So, John, you want to see what happens and we keep you informed?
Yeah, I'll definitely get in contact with Randy and let me know what's going on and keep people updated.